Welcome to Careers in Accounting. Today we have Kim Stumpf. Kim Stumpf is with RGA, Reinsurance Group of America. She's the VP of International Tax there. Really appreciate you taking some time and joining us.
Of course. Thanks for inviting me.
So just to get us started, why don't you talk a little bit about how did you get interested in accounting and kind of get started in the profession?
Sure. So I actually, when I started college, my first few semesters, I majored in business undecided.
Okay.
I knew that I wanted to work with business, but I wasn't quite sure which aspect yet. So after a few semesters of just majoring in business, I actually decided to focus on finance and declare a major in finance. But after a semester of doing finance, I was compelled to move and change my major to accounting.
Okay.
And really what compelled me was learning about the endless opportunities available in accounting.
Okay.
If you think about it, accounting is paramount to the success of any business.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to, accurately report results, understand, profitable growth, cash efficiencies.
Yep.
And so every company needs accountants, every industry needs accountants, and just the opportunities out there are endless. And I wanted to put myself in a position where, I could take advantage of those opportunities. So I made the switch over to accounting. And then, obviously I continued on, got my degree in accounting, sat for my CPA exam, got my certification, and then started working at PwC, where I spent the first 10 years or so of my career.
Yep. Excellent. So you're obviously still in the profession. So kind of talk a little bit about what have you found to be fulfilling about your choice of careers?
Yeah, there's a few things actually. A few of many. But the first one being, I'm a very analytical person. I enjoy working with numbers and I love to problem solve. And my role in accounting gives me the opportunity to problem solve every day. Through working with others, researching problems, collaborating with others to solve business problems, both big business problems, small business problems. It's something that I enjoy doing every day.
Okay.
And key decisions aren't made by a company without understanding the accounting implications of that decision. So the accounting aspects of the decision-making process are really important, and I enjoy being a part of that process.
That's interesting because I think one of the stereotypes about an accountant is you're kind of doing the same as last year, and it's a very redundant profession.
Yeah.
Solving problems and working with other business division leaders and management doesn't sound like same as last year.
Not at all.
Thing.
Not at all. And that actually leads me into the next point that I wanted to make in terms of fulfillment is the accounting role has really given me, fulfilled me in terms of being able to achieve my desire of continuous learning.
Yeah.
I go to work every day and always do something different. I'm always learning. Everything is changing. There's so much to learn in accounting between the nuances, the changing rules,
Yep.
And changing business facts. Whatever the case might be. And so every day is different. I couldn't be in a role where I was doing the same thing every day and be fulfilled. So I've really enjoyed that about accounting, and especially now, with global tax reform. Tax is changing at an unprecedented pace. And so there's just so much out there to learn. And I've enjoyed, following the tax changes and the tax rules and delving into them and really thinking about, how is this going to impact my organization and, working with others to be prepared for those changes.
Yeah. So Kim and our careers overlapped at PwC, by the way. When you talk about continuous learning, that was a big part of my choice and what I found fulfilling about going into accounting. I like to talk to the students about the firms. If you start in public accounting and maybe the larger firms, not just the big four, but a significant size of a firm, they tend to take over your training wherever you leave it from school. And that goes continuous all the way through. Your 10th year, my 25th year, we were still going to training.
Yeah.
And so I found that fascinating. You never want to learn it all. You can't learn it all, as you were mentioning. But I found that just that continuous learning, and then that provides you opportunities elsewhere as well.
Yes,
as you're
absolutely.
progressing in your career.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about a couple interesting projects maybe you've worked on at RGA recently?
Yeah, sure. I'm actually going to delve back into one of the most interesting projects I've worked on in my
Okay.
career. So I used to work for another large multinational
Okay.
corporation that was acquired by another large corporation in what was the biggest all cash acquisition in history. So huge deal, huge transaction, two big companies, combining together. And after closing, we had to figure out how to integrate the legal
Hmm.
entity structures of the two companies. Both companies had legal entities located across the world. And, to figure out how to integrate those companies in the most efficient manner meant, trying to figure out how we could achieve the business needs and objectives, but also minimize costs, including, of course, tax costs. So just being able to work with leaders across the organization, with tax advisors around the world, to understand all the nuances of the local taxes and how that overlaps with all the business needs, was really interesting. Currently I'm working on projects similar to that that involve, cross-border transactions, different types of tax rules around the world, different people from around the world, obviously on a much smaller scale. But another thing maybe that I've really enjoyed about my accounting role is just the ability to learn about different cultures.
Hmm.
I enjoy experiencing different cultures. I enjoy traveling, and the role has really allowed me the opportunity to travel the world and to fulfill that as well. So I've enjoyed that too.
Yeah. My wife used to joke when I chose to go into international taxes, you did,
Hmm.
are you going to have to learn another language? And I was like, I don't know. But fortunately, the language of business is English, but there are
Yeah.
cultural aspects of it, right? It's
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
you trying to convey very technical points as to what you need, and they're doing the same to you,
Hmm.
and it's in their second language,
Hmm.
can be very challenging and rewarding and fun,
Yes.
trying
Yeah.
to put the pieces together to make it all work. And those
Yeah.
projects are year-long projects. They're
Hmm.
enormous
There.
because you
Yeah.
just they're so big. Those companies are so big at the end of the day. There's nothing same as last year about
Nothing
any
same as
of
last
that.
year. No,
Any
and
of that.
it's really interesting to be a part of, the process and the decision making, and ultimately just being a part of the puzzle to
Hmm.
to drive shareholder value.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. So you mentioned you worked at a couple places after PwC. So um, that's one of the themes I like to explore with
mhm,
people is you started at the top in public accounting, if you will, for a new graduate, right? That's a
mhm,
great place to start your career.
mhm,
Um,
absolutely.
can you talk about the opportunities that came your way that maybe you said no to, or
Mhm.
those types of things? And then obviously some you did say yes to, but kind of how that felt like being in the position where people were coming to you and trying to hire you.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely a interesting experience. And from the start of working at PwC, I had many opportunities to work on many different and interesting projects, and it really accelerated my learning, not only from a technical standpoint, but also from just a general business knowledge, business
Hmm.
acumen perspective. And companies looking to fill positions know that, and are looking for that. And so I consistently had recruiters reaching out to talk to me about positions available in the market, and all types of positions, all types of industries, all types of levels, and different types of work. So it was always interesting to hear and kind of know what was available out there. But when I had decided to make the switch and move to industry, I knew I had a lot of opportunity out
Yep.
there, and I had in mind the company I wanted to work for. And so I reached out to them, and actually worked in collaboration with them to develop a role specific to my skill set and
Okay.
my what I could bring to the table and that fit their business needs as well. So my experience really helped me feel confident to, approach them and talk to them, and feel like I could add value to them while at the same time achieving with what I wanted to achieve.
Yeah, and it's like those industry employers that are out there, the corporations. they view it as kind of you've had like a super master's degree after you have X number of years in public
Right.
accounting
Yeah.
because of the training and the experiences that you've had. You become
Mm-hmm.
very, very marketable at that
Mm-hmm.
point in time, and lots of opportunities come your way.
Definitely.
I mean,
Yeah.
we've shared lots of colleagues as well that have gone on to do great things
Mm-hmm.
financially and rewarding from a purpose perspective as well as to what they're
Definitely.
doing. Um, so I'm interested in kind of your perspective on. We've all heard about the challenges the profession is from a pipeline perspective. We just
Mm-hmm.
don't have enough young people coming into accounting.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, what are your thoughts on that? Like, why is that, and how what can we do to change that?
Well, hopefully, just, really learning what opportunities are out there can help students understand what accounting has to offer.
Hmm.
A person that is, a young, motivated accounting professional with a high desire to learn, and even a basic knowledge of accounting can already add value, to a company. Um, and like you said, the demand is high and the supply is low.
Yeah.
So the opportunities there are endless, and by experiencing and knowing what those opportunities could be, can be really helpful in the process of deciding what you want to do.
Yeah, I'd be interested in your perspective around what you see in the industry world. What I was seeing in public accounting is there was a certain level of professional that was getting up there in age and looking
Mm-hmm.
to do, what else they were going to do in the rest of their life, me included. Um, but the work is still there. It's
Yes, yeah.
complicated as ever and constantly changing. We have a new president who intends to keep things on everyone on their toes.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the world's changing, as you were mentioning. And so I always felt it like there's this body of things that have to be done, and the
Mm-hmm.
next generation is going to have to do it because
Right.
business needs that help and that assistance. And it
Right.
just
Right.
for those that are bold enough to go in that direction, a lot of work is just going to come to them, and the
Yeah.
rewards and responsibilities with it.
Right, right, exactly. And just having, like I said, just having that basic knowledge of accounting and desire and motivation to learn and contribute I think, is a great starting point.
Yeah, and that starting point, I'm glad you phrased it that way because well, at least for me, when I was I wanted to go into business, and I thought accounting was kind of a well-worn path to get there, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Firms are very experienced in how to take a college graduate and bring them in and get them started and get them going in their career,
Mm-hmm.
and then, like we're saying, you can go in all different directions and everything, and
Mm-hmm.
your specialty now, international tax in the insurance world that you don't know, that is very, very niche
Yeah.
business. But you probably had no idea that's where you would end up.
No idea that's where I would end up. But the opportunity came along, and it's been a great opportunity. I actually just started in insurance a couple of years ago, but and was able to leverage my skills I had learned in international tax, and just through my experience to contribute to the company and learn insurance quickly and kind
Yeah.
of build on that. And it's been really interesting and enjoyable.
Yeah. Excellent. Um, Work-life flexibility.
Hmm.
I think there's a perception that accountants work inordinate numbers of hours, and they to the detriment of their other things going on in their life. You have a family, you have other responsibilities outside of your job title.
Hmm.
What does work-life flexibility mean to you? How do you manage that?
Yeah, of course. As a working mom, work life flexibility is obviously very important to me. And throughout my career in accounting, I've kind of always had the autonomy to make choices about where I work, when I work, how I work based on what works best for me. So, if, for example, I need to leave early in the afternoon for an event at school, I can do that and make up the time at a time that's convenient for me. So I think it's about communicating with your team, managing expectations, letting them know what's important to you, and just working around what works best for you and what's important to you. The other thing I found really helpful is, especially since the pandemic, the hybrid work
Hmm.
arrangement, and being able to work some days at home and some days in the office. that also really helps facilitate for me, work-life balance and helps me, focus both items that are both important.
Yep. And I found that, like you're saying with the pandemic, what that really forced all professionals do in accounting firms, I think were really good at adapting quickly,
Hmm.
and accountants in general. But the trust factor, just being able to trust somebody is working and advancing the project of whatever you're jointly working on
Right.
while not sitting in the same building
Right.
is wasn't so much there
Hmm.
pre-pandemic. But that's
Hmm.
maybe one good thing that might have come out of the pandemic is we were
Yeah.
forced to do that, and now we're pretty good at it. So
Yeah.
if you have a
Yeah.
good team and you work with good people, you can all be in different locations and advancing the project to the deadline, to whatever you need to meet.
Yep.
And I find that is very comforting and very flexible, right? Allows
Hmm.
you to do lots of different things and fit in the other parts of your life that you need
Yeah,
to.
definitely. Yeah, and kind of on that note, just it seems like increasingly companies are focusing on the well-being of their employees, and flexibility. Continues to be a big part of that. For example, something we do as a team is collaborate together on a regular basis on, okay, what projects do we have? Whose workload is higher, so that we can prioritize different projects, manage workloads so that no one is working too much, because we recognize that everyone has things that are important to them, both at work but also outside of work.
Yeah, and that's important. I think that sharing of workloads, right, that
Yeah.
keeps it more that if you're a professional, there's going to be peaks and valleys, right? If there's a major transaction, everybody's going to be busy.
Right.
But we're
Right.
professionals. You understand that going in. But
Hmm.
absent those kind of life events, other little peaks and valleys, you can kind of smooth those out a little bit. If someone's got a little extra capacity, you can push that to them. But it
Definitely.
all relies upon keeping the inflow of young people coming in to join your teams, right? And
Yes.
so that's critical.
That
We
that
all
is
have to have
critical.
that.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about compensation,
Hmm.
because I have found that the other business majors maybe have a higher starting salary than accounting. And I hear from other professionals I stay in touch with that the accounting firms at least are addressing that. They're trying
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
raise starting salaries, and then they have to deal with the salary compression with people
Hmm.
that have just been there a year or two. But they understand they're going to compete, right? They're going to
Hmm.
compete to get people. But um, what are your thoughts, not just on starting salaries? Because I think there's a lot of information out there. You can Google and Chat
Hmm.
GPT and
Hmm.
find starting salaries across professions. But what about like the near to medium term salaries? And that's what I'm trying to explain to people is like how accounting, if you do well at the beginning, how rapidly your salary can
Hmm.
increase in kind of that 3 to 5 year range. But what has been your experience personally? And then you don't have to give us numbers, but also the people you work with or the people that worked for you, and you've seen how kind of salaries work over a
Yeah.
short period of time.
Yeah. I mean, and being in the industry for over 20 years, I've seen, a lot of instances where, salaries have just grown. So I would say starting salary obviously is important, but it's only the very beginning.
Yeah.
So, someone that comes in that's, a talented professional, motivated to learn, can, um, really just with a few years of experience, really increase their presence in the market. And there's compensation that comes along with that. So I would say, a talented professional can often regularly see annual base increases, bonuses. For somebody that transitions to industry, ultimately, there's stock compensation available, and there's just so much opportunity out there compensation wise that I would encourage students, not to focus so much on starting salaries, but focus on earning potential for the midterm, and even the long term,
Yep.
over the course of your career, and just think about that,
Yep.
and go from there.
And I think you would agree with this. It's not uncommon when those early part of your years in large public accounting firms to see a 10% on top of 10% year over year raises, and you
Yeah,
do that for a little bit of time, and power of compounding is pretty powerful.
yeah,
And so whereas other professions may
definitely.
start a little higher and go gradually, you can actually it's like a hockey stick. You can go up pretty
Yeah.
rapidly within accounting, and I don't think that story's out there. I don't think people know that, and I'd like to tie it back. You touched on it a little bit, but back to where you talked about when you kind of, as your career progressed and you went to different roles. I never did that.
Hmm.
I stuck around, but I had folks such as yourself that would come in, and you guys would shut the door, and then I knew what was
Have
happening,
something to tell you.
and we would talk about it. But the numbers I would hear that you would get from what we were paying you to what your new job was going to pay you
Hmm.
in a week were astounding.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we would try to counter, but we couldn't. The power of numbers, we couldn't do that. And I'd be interested in your perspective on that. To me, it's like the industry is just paying up for your skills that you've
Hmm.
developed and created,
Yeah.
and paying you so much like a free agency that we couldn't keep up, and
Yeah.
you'd have to
Yeah.
you would that's one of the decisions that would, or one of the factors in your decision, but pretty big one at the end of the day. But your
Yeah,
your
of
experience on
course.
those jumps
Yeah.
across to industry.
Yeah, and like we talked about earlier, the supply is low and the demand is high,
Yeah.
for those professionals, and companies know that costs,
Yeah.
to get those people in, and um so yeah, so sometimes just seeing what the earning potential is out there and is just astounding, like you said. And so my experience has been the same, that it's more than I ever imagined in terms
Yeah.
of where it could go and what the opportunities
Yeah.
are.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that. Lastly, besides pure technical skills for someone who's still in school,
Hmm.
and obviously learning the subject matter, can you talk about like other suggestions you would have, things you've learned over your time in the profession that maybe a young person should focus on besides just the technical rules?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So as I've kind of talked throughout, about my role being very focused on problem solving, collaborating with others, working with others, to achieve a business objective. So I would say communication skills, relationship building skills, are very important. So that might mean, kind of putting yourself outside your comfort zone
Mm-hmm.
and putting yourself out there, even making yourself a bit vulnerable,
Yeah.
to, build upon those skills. That's something that, as an introvert myself, I was challenged by that at the start of my
Yeah.
career. But I just, pushed myself, put myself out of my comfort zone, and that allowed me to build those skills that I needed, and really helped me ultimately to succeed and build some great relationships along the
Yeah.
way as well.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that because I may not have told you this, but before you joined the firm, I was an introvert as well. I was um, like to do my job and kind of
Hmm.
that's it and that
Hmm.
type of thing. But what I kind of noticed, I just kept my eyes and ears and open and saw other people that were very successful in the field, and what were they bringing to it. And it was those soft skills and that
Hmm.
ability to have a good meeting with a client, to
Hmm.
have a client that would want to have another meeting with you, or
Hmm.
to deal with a problem at work from a personnel perspective, something like
Hmm.
that. And those type of skills, no one's good at it. Very few are good at it, just born.
Hmm.
You just have to work at it. And it's
Yeah.
like, it really is one of those things that the more you do it, kind of the better you're at it. And so it's
Hmm.
like, look for ways to do public speaking,
Hmm. Hmm.
stand up in front of a group,
Hmm.
volunteer it in a classroom to lead your group when they're doing their presentation or something like that. I think those are all things that directly translate, like you're saying, into the
Yeah.
workplace.
Yeah, definitely.
Because when you're in a conference room with your boss or your boss and your boss and the client, you're expected to participate, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so you could be the smartest person in the room, but if you haven't like worked on those skills to make your point of view kind of heard or seen,
Hmm.
it can limit you
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
definitely.
excellent. Well, I really appreciate you joining us and sharing with us your thoughts. It's been very, very nice. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for having me.